Welcome to Learn English Speaking. Let's talk stories. Here we bring you amazing stories to improve your English fluency. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more exciting lessons. Let's learn together.
Chapter 9. The Metro, Avenue C.
Second floor, room 219,
said Gina. No time to lose. Joe and I ran upstairs to the room. The door was open and the lock was broken. Inside, we could see that someone had quickly searched the room. An empty travel bag was lying on the floor. The blankets had been pulled off the bed and clothes thrown around the room. "O'Neill's not here, but those other guys won't be far away," I said. "I don't like this one bit. Let's get back to the lobby." At the desk, I made a 911 call for the police, described the three guys in their car, and said, "I believe they're looking for Patrick O'Neill, who's staying at this hotel." We walked out onto the street to wait for the police, who I knew ought to be here in minutes. But things now happened very quickly. A guy in dark glasses was standing opposite us, across the road. He laughed and said, "I guess you ain't going no place fast." Then he began to cross the street, like he didn't need to hurry. He spoke again. "You guys, just tell me where O'Neill is. Then you can go home and forget you ever saw me." He wanted O'Neill, but we had no idea where he might be. I looked left and right along the street. On either side of us was a guy in a black suit walking slowly toward us. Both of them were carrying guns. We had no place to run, no place to hide. Luckily, Joe was thinking more quickly than me. "Back inside the hotel, now!" he shouted, and pushed me toward the entrance. We turned and ran inside. Behind us, I could hear the sound of running feet as they chased after us. "On the floor, behind the desk, now!" said Joe. There was no time to say, "If you please, ma'am," as I threw Gina to the ground. The front door opened with a crash, but Joe was ready for them. I heard 2 shots, followed by a scream. Then everything was quiet. There was a cloud of smoke from the shots in the air. Joe was now at the desk. "I think I hit one, but they'll be back," said Joe. "We have to hurry. Gina, you got to help us. Is there a back entrance?"
"Through here," replied Gina. "Follow me."
She led us through a door behind the desk, then down some steps. Behind us, I heard a crash as the men in black returned. We were now hurrying through the hotel kitchen. I heard shouts and feet on the stairs. They were getting close. "Turn off any lights and lock doors behind us if you can," I told Gina. I decided to make things more difficult for the guys following us. I pulled glasses and bottles to the floor. We reached the back door just as we heard the men coming into the kitchen. There was a shot, which left a hole in the wall beside me. That was much too close. A second later, the room was in complete darkness as Gina turned off the lights. There were shouts as one of the guys fell over.
"Up these steps, hurry,"
said Gina. We were now outside in the cold night air. We went up a few more steps, then out into a narrow street behind the hotel. In the darkness, I could just see back entrances to buildings along Avenue C. We had passed a few doors when Gina suddenly stopped.
"I don't know what to do,"
she screamed. "Through this door, quickly," I ordered, "and get down." We hit the ground behind some boxes. It didn't smell too clean down there, but this wasn't the time to worry about the dry cleaner's bill. Gina had started to cry, so I put my hand over her mouth to keep her quiet.
"Don't make a sound," Joe whispered. "With luck, the NYPD should arrive before they find us."
As we hid there in the darkness, we heard feet running to the left and right along the narrow street. Then we heard the steps returning more slowly, and voices.
"They gotta be here someplace,"
said one.
"They can't have gotten far."
"Start with these doors," said another. "Let's see where they're hiding." There was crash after crash as the doors were opened. More shots. Well, that's one way to unlock a door if you don't have the key. The noise was now getting closer. I kept my hand over Gina's mouth. Her body was shaking. Finally, above the crashes and shots, a new but very welcome sound. The scream of a police car.
"It's the cops! Let's get out of here!"
shouted a voice on the other side of the door. We heard them running back toward the hotel. Then all went quiet. After waiting a few minutes, I decided it was safe to come out. Back inside the hotel kitchen, it looked like the morning after a wild party. We walked carefully around the broken glasses and bottles on the floor. In the hotel lobby, two guys in black suits were lying on the floor. Above them stood two NYPD cops. "Am I pleased to see you?" I said. "I'm Nat Marley, licensed private investigator. Did you catch all three of them?" "Yes, sir. The other one is outside with the sergeant. He'll need an ambulance," said one of the cops.
"We got here just in time," said the other. "Captain Oldenburg's on his way. He'll need to question you."
Gina was feeling better. Her suit was black with dirt and oil. Mine didn't look much cleaner, though. Now I started to shake. It's always the same. It never hits me at the time, but later, when I realize I'm lucky to be alive.
"I guess I could make everyone coffee,"
said Gina. That'd be great. But then I had a sudden thought and shouted, "Joe, upstairs, now!" We ran back up to room 219. The door was closed, and when I knocked, there was no reply. I put my ear to the door and listened. Somebody was moving around in the room. I tried to open the door, but there was something against it on the other side. However, it wasn't strong enough for Joe's boot and flew open. Inside, we saw a man holding the travel bag. He threw the bag into Joe's face and tried to push past me, but I was able to catch his coat and pull him to the floor. I looked at him closely. A middle-aged guy with gray hair and black metal glasses. Patrick O'Neill. "Don't be afraid," I said. "I'm Nat Marley, private investigator. I'm working for your wife, Joyce. You're gonna be safe. It's time to stop running." Chapter 10. Time to Fight Back. There was a hopeless look in O'Neill's eyes. His lips moved, but he couldn't speak. I shook his shoulders and made him look straight at me. "Listen, we're the good guys. You're out of danger. Your wife sent us to find you." He still seemed to be unsure, so I pulled him to his feet and tried again. "Here's my cell phone. It's calling my office number. As soon as my personal assistant answers, ask to speak to Joyce." We waited while he spoke to his wife. He sat down on the bed as he talked. Now he looked tired and weak, like a lost child. "If you don't mind, Mr. O'Neill, I need to talk to my personal assistant now," I said. He returned my cell phone. "Stella, listen carefully," I said. "Call a cab and take Mrs. O'Neill to Frankie's Cocktail Lounge on 5th Street. We're going to meet you there as soon as possible. We need to make Oldenburg believe that O'Neill is not Steinman's killer." Now O'Neill was beginning to look more normal. "I guess I should say sorry," he said. "How did you know where to find me?" "I can explain that," I replied. "Through information in your bank accounts, we learned that you'd made payments to a Van Zandt. That's how we found your old friend Frank." "So, you know about the poker games," said O'Neill. "When I told Joyce I was working late, I was actually—" "It doesn't matter now," I said. "Van Zandt told us that you'd checked into a hotel somewhere in the East Village. You heard about Steinman's murder? The police think you did it, but I didn't think that could be true. So I thought you might be in danger too. But how did you get away from the guys in black suits?" "I was watching the street from my window," began O'Neill. "I saw them arrive and thought they had to be bad news. I ran up to the top floor and hid in a blanket cupboard. I'd been up there for about 10 minutes when I heard the shots. So I stayed there until I heard the police car arrive and came down to my floor. When I looked out of my window again, I could see the sergeant outside with one of them. Finally, I thought it was safe enough to escape." "That letter you sent to Van Zandt. What do all those numbers mean?" I asked. "They're the reason why Steinman was murdered," replied O'Neill. Suddenly, there was someone at the door. It was Captain Oldenburg. He looked around, shook his head, and asked in a tired voice, "Would you mind telling me what's going on, Marley?" "Oldenburg, let me introduce Mr. Patrick O'Neill. Mr. O'Neill was almost murdered here tonight. Thanks to the sergeant and his team, we're all still alive. Mr. O'Neill has a story to tell you. I believe that once you know all the facts, it will be clear that he can't be Steinman's killer." "I'm listening, Marley," said Oldenburg, "but whether he's the killer is for the police to decide, not you." "Mr. O'Neill can show you all the information you need," I continued. "If you agree, it means a quick journey to Frankie's Cocktail Lounge on 5th Street. Everything's there." "Agreed," said Oldenburg. "But for the moment, O'Neill, you're still wanted for murder, and that means you're my prisoner. Anyway, I guess police headquarters will be rather safer than this hotel." We all went downstairs, back to reception, where Oldenburg organized everyone. "Sergeant, you're coming with me and O'Neill. Have your men take away the other 2 prisoners, and 1 officer should stay with the guy who was shot." Joe had to leave and get some help with his car. Oldenburg drove us through the East Village back to 5th Street. Frankie's Cocktail Lounge was now noisy with the evening crowd. A jazz band was getting ready to play. I saw Stella and Mrs. O'Neill sitting at a corner table, waiting for us to arrive. "Your husband's outside, Mrs. O'Neill," I told her. If you could be patient for a few more minutes, I'll find somewhere less public to talk." I went over to the bar and shouted above the noise to the bartender. "I need to speak to Frank. Where can I find him?"
In the back room,
answered the bartender.
just go straight through.
I coughed as I entered because the air was heavy with cigarette smoke. "O'Neill's outside with the police," I said. "Could we meet in here? Oh, and we'll need that envelope."
Sure. Let's get some fresh air in here,
said Van Zandt as he threw open a window. Oldenburg brought O'Neill into the room, and Stella followed with Mrs. O'Neill. As soon as everybody was inside the office, O'Neill took his wife in his arms.
"It's wonderful to see you again, Joyce," he said. "I'm going to stop hiding. Now it's time to fight back." "Patrick, I've been so worried for you," she said. "What's been happening? Why all these secrets?" "There's so much to explain," replied O'Neill. "I'll tell you everything, I promise. But first, I have to make the captain understand that I'm not to blame for Steinman's death."
O'Neill turned to Oldenburg and opened the envelope. He took out the papers and laid them on the table. He said,
"These are secret papers from the Ocean Star President's office. There's enough information here to send Lorraine Houston to jail."
"If you could keep it short," said Oldenburg.
"Okay. Ocean Star is an investment firm. Its business is making money for its clients," continued O'Neill. "How do they do this? By investing clients' money in the international money markets. Or that's what should happen. Look at this page. It's organized in two halves, so let's compare the two sides. On the left, the numbers show money that was paid to clients, often a 15% return. On the right, we see what the firm actually made from investments. Surprise, surprise, these numbers are far less. You realize what this means?
"Go on, tell me," said Oldenburg. "You're the accountant."
Ocean Star can't possibly earn enough from its investments to pay big money to the clients and millions to the president. It's using the money from new clients to pay the old clients. As long as it continues to get large numbers of new clients, this can work, and people think it's the smartest firm on Wall Street. However, it's a serious crime. I believe that's why Steinman was murdered. He knew about it too after I showed him these accounts, and he talked to Houston. I want to make all this public, and now I don't care if it destroys Ocean Star at the same time. Is that clear, Captain?"
"More or less," replied Oldenburg. "If I could take those papers, thanks. But there are a lot more questions which I want answered. We'll continue at police headquarters. Mr. O'Neill, you're still my prisoner."
Chapter 11. O'Neill's Story. At police headquarters, Oldenburg led us up to his office. I'd sent Stella home. At least one of us should try and get a good night's sleep. Mrs. O'Neill wouldn't leave her husband. Inside Oldenburg's office, it couldn't be more different from the offices I'd seen at Ocean Star. The walls were a dirty green color, and there was no carpeting on the floor. Basic was the best word to describe it. Oldenburg had ordered coffee and sandwiches for everybody. At least the NYPD coffee tasted better than it used to when I was a cop.
"You have a story to tell us, Mr. O'Neill," said Oldenburg. I want to know everything about you, Steinman, and Ocean Star.
Okay. 2 years ago, the old department head moved to another firm, began O'Neill. I'd worked at Ocean Star for over 8 years, and I thought I had a good chance of getting the job. I was wrong. The president, Lorraine Houston, had decided to bring in someone new. Someone who didn't care who he hurt. So I went on with my work and did what was necessary. With Steinman as head of department, the firm was making even more money than before. Houston thought he was wonderful, but people who were working with me thought the opposite. Steinman loved to push people hard. A year ago, I asked Steinman how the firm could continue paying so much money to its clients. The money our department made from clients' investments wasn't that high. I did the math again, and still didn't understand. Where was the money coming from? I was worried, but Steinman promised me that there were no problems. He said, just do your job and don't ask too many questions. She knows what she's doing on the top floor. The top floor is where Lorraine Houston has her offices. Steinman hoped to get his own office there someday. It seemed impossible to talk to him, so I kept my mouth shut. Time passed, and Ocean Star went on paying out big money to its clients. Then, on Friday morning last week, I received the information that could destroy the firm and send Lorraine Houston to jail. It happened by chance. I got a letter from Houston's office. At first, I didn't understand why I'd been sent a hard copy of the accounts. Usually, everything like that is sent through office email. I soon realized that it had been a mistake. Houston's personal assistant had sent me an envelope which was meant to go to the vice president. I knew I shouldn't, but I continued reading. As I read, I was more and more surprised. Now I understood that the public accounts weren't the truth. These were secret accounts, which weren't on computer. They showed that Ocean Star was using the money from its new clients to pay the old ones. Now I understood how Houston had so much to spend on her cars, homes, clothes, and vacations. I didn't like the idea, but I thought I should talk with Steinman. I knew I had to be careful, so I made a copy of the accounts to show him. What about the ones I'd received? How could I get the information out of the building safely? I had an idea. I put the accounts in an envelope and addressed it to my old friend Frank Van Zandt. Then I left the building for 5 minutes and dropped the envelope in the nearest mailbox. Later that morning, I spoke with Steinman and gave him the copy of the accounts. He was immediately very interested. He laughed and said, "So that's how she does it. You've done the right thing. I'll go straight upstairs and talk with Houston. With this information, I could make a lot of money. Maybe I'll share some with you." His plan was to ask Houston to pay him to keep quiet. I became really angry with him and tried to make him change his mind. But he refused. He wouldn't listen to me and went up to the top floor. Now I knew that I could be in real trouble because Steinman had gotten the accounts from me. I wasn't sure what to do, but my first move was to get out of the office quick. I told my personal assistant that I'd had an awful headache all day and had to go home. Back home, I waited a couple of hours, then made some phone calls. First, I called Steinman's personal assistant. She told me that Steinman's desk was empty and his computer was gone, but she couldn't tell me anything more. I sent Steinman an angry email to his home computer. I wrote something like, "I didn't think you could be so stupid. I can't believe what you've done." The next day, I felt bad about what I'd said in the email, so I tried to phone Steinman. His wife answered and told me that he hadn't come home, and she was very worried. That night, I stayed up late thinking about what I should do. Just before midnight, I got a call. Someone said, "You have information which belongs to the firm. Return this information to Ms. Houston by midday tomorrow if you want to stay alive." How could I return the accounts? They were in the U.S. mail. So I thought the safest thing to do was to hide. I wrote a note for Joyce and left in the middle of the night. Looking back, maybe it wasn't the most intelligent decision. I packed a bag, left by the back entrance, took a cab to Frank Van Zant's place. I can promise you I left my car on Henry Street. I told Frank to expect the letter with the accounts, then I checked into a hotel. On Monday morning, I took out $10,000 from the bank, so I wouldn't need to use any credit cards. I think you know the rest of the story.
"Thanks, Mr. O'Neill," said Oldenburg. "That's very helpful."
Oldenburg led me to another office. He thought for a few moments, then said,
"Marley, I need some advice. My problem is this. If I accept that Houston ordered Steinman's murder, how can I show that it's true?"
"If you'll allow me, Captain," I said, "I got an idea that just might work." Chapter 12. If the Price is Right. What if nobody knew that O'Neill was at police headquarters? That would give us the chance to tell some clever lies, lies that might give us the advantage. I shared my ideas with the captain. "We don't know for sure, but let's say Lorraine Houston planned Steinman's murder," I began. "She's killed one person, and she wants O'Neill badly enough to kill again. Why don't we try out this plan? Give the news of what happened at the Metro Hotel tonight to the newspapers, TV, and radio stations. Some of it can be true, but a few things can be changed. We tell them that O'Neill escaped and is believed to be somewhere in the East Village area. Houston will be very afraid. She has a lot to lose if she doesn't find O'Neill first and stop him from talking."
"Okay, Marley, so far so good. What next?" asked Oldenburg.
"If you agree, I could speak with her. I'll tell her I have something to sell. The secret accounts."
"Go on," said Oldenburg. "I'm interested. But why you? Why couldn't an NYPD officer do it?"
"I'll tell her I've found O'Neill and am keeping him someplace safe, where she'll never find him. I'll also tell her I have the accounts, which I'll offer to sell if the price is right. I'll make her an offer which she can't refuse. For $100,000, I'll return the accounts to her and give O'Neill to the police. Houston will think she has won. The secret accounts will be safe, and O'Neill will be in jail for Steinman's murder. I'll meet with her, then try and get her to talk."
"Come on, Marley, get real," said Oldenburg. "You think a hard businesswoman like Houston is just gonna say, 'Oh, by the way, I ordered Steinman's murder'?"
"I'll let her think I'm the same sort of person as her," I continued. A businessman who doesn't care how he earns his money or who he hurts. If she feels comfortable with me, then we might get the truth.
This had better work, Marley. I hope you're a good enough actor, said Oldenburg.
Believe me, Oldenburg, on a good day, I could win Oscars, I told him.
All right, we'll do it, replied Oldenburg. This could be dangerous. You know that as well as I do. You'll need a full NYPD team behind you. I'll organize that as soon as you and Houston have a time and a place to meet. So now I'll talk to the newspapers, and Houston will think that O'Neill is still in hiding.
Okay. And one more thing, I said. Mrs. O'Neill and her daughter Julia could be in real danger. Could you move them to an NYPD safe house?
Consider it done, said Oldenburg.
Wednesday had been a very long day. I got home at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was so tired that I felt like a dead man walking. I fell into bed and slept well. The next morning, I woke up late, feeling much better. After quickly getting dressed, I ran down to the nearest newsstand and picked up the morning newspapers. I took the papers into Slim Pete's Diner on Main Street to read more carefully. The name Slim is a joke. Actually, he has a serious weight problem.
"What'll it be, Mr. Marley?"
asked Pete with a big smile.
Eggs, pancakes, and bacon, I answered. And make that coffee strong, will ya?
"You got it. So, what's the famous Mr. Marley doing today?" asked Pete. "Helping New York's finest win the war against crime?"
Something like that, I replied. New York's finest. That's what people call the NYPD. I never thought of myself as one of the finest when I was a cop, and I never thought I was fighting a war. I was just doing my job. If there was a little less crime on the streets by the end of the day, that was good enough for me. I read through the newspapers. Oldenburg had done an excellent job. The O'Neill story was on all the front pages. The headline of the Daily News read, "NYPD's Most Wanted Escapes." The New York Post headline made me smile.
"Killer Accountant on the Run."
There was some truth, but the rest of the story sounded like something from the movies.
"This man is both intelligent and dangerous," said Captain Oldenburg.
This wasn't the O'Neill that I knew. While I ate my breakfast, I watched the TV news. Their reporter said,
"This is Cindy Lou, outside the Metro Hotel on Avenue C. Here, last night, NYPD officers almost caught Patrick O'Neill, the man wanted for the murder of Ronald Steinman."
Well done, Oldenburg, I thought. Now Houston would get a clear message. Neither her people nor the NYPD had found O'Neill, so she still had a real problem on her hands. I hoped she was one very worried woman. I got to the office by 10 o'clock. Stella had already been there a couple of hours.
"That was quite a day yesterday. You feeling okay now?"
she asked. A lot better, I replied. And thank you for taking care of Mrs. O'Neill all day. With luck, we're going to send Lorraine Houston to jail. During the morning, I agreed on a plan with Oldenburg. I would meet with Houston in a public area, the kind of place where it would be easy for an NYPD team to watch and wait. Our choice was Battery Park, at the foot of Manhattan, with its tall trees and green grass. This is where New York meets the ocean. From here, you can look across Upper New York Bay to the Statue of Liberty and Staten Island. I tried to get through to Houston on my cell phone, but her personal assistant wouldn't allow me to speak with her.
"I'm sorry, sir, but Miss Houston isn't taking any calls," she said.
I wasn't gonna take no for an answer. Listen carefully, and just do what I say. Your boss lost something of great importance. Tell her I've found it and want to return it to her. I'll call back in 10 minutes and expect to speak with her in person. Understood? Careful now, I told myself. No mistakes. I waited a full 15 minutes before calling back. People think less clearly when they get impatient. This time, I got a hold of Houston immediately.
"Who are you, and what do you want?"
she asked crossly. The name's Marley. I was working for Mr. O'Neill. He found some interesting papers of yours, which he gave me to look after. Now I'm working for myself, and I thought that you might like to have those papers back. I'll make this offer even more generous. The police will be very interested when I tell them where O'Neill is. The price is $100,000. Wait in your office for my call at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning."
"What?"
began Houston. "That's it, lady," I shouted. "Be ready in your office 8 o'clock tomorrow with $100,000, okay? And don't think of doing anything clever, or every newspaper in this city will know the truth about Ocean Star's accounts." With that, I ended the call. I felt very pleased with myself. Would I still feel so pleased tomorrow?